There has been a Senate hearing on book banning. Understand, like, books have been banned all across the country now. The writing of Frederick Douglass. I mean, we just go on and on. The way that they're justifying this is that there are apparently 2 books that exist that kids in middle school, again, you're over the age of 12, have access to in the libraries. They don't trust librarians to be able to provide these books. And understand, these 2 minutes that they're reading from these books are moments within the books. Here is, which one came first, Bradley?
Max Eden came first.
This is Max Eden, a research fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, trying to protect our kids.
Material to children by public employees. This is a question of judgment. Few would say it's unreasonable to keep Hustler with its close-up genital photographs out of school libraries, and few would insist that Romeo and Juliet, with its lyrical allusions to sex, should be removed. Communities must draw the line somewhere between those 2 points. But where exactly? Take the previously mentioned book, Genderqueer. That graphic novel famously includes a picture of a strap-on dildo blowjob. Is this okay for kids? Some think that it is, and some think that it isn't. You know something weird is going on, though, when parents try to read passages of these books at school board meetings, and the school board cuts them off because they insist the material is too obscene to be read out loud. I guess kids could be listening? Great for them to read, but unacceptable for them to hear? I think that's the principle, maybe. It's kind of gross.
I can explain what the principle is. When you take a book out of the library and you decide to read it, you are making a decision to read it. When you are in a public forum and you're listening to that forum, when somebody starts reading something that's explicit, you don't have the same control over that. I guess theoretically you could turn it off, but if you're actually located in the building, what are you going to have to run out of the room? This is very different. I mean, I think this is a fairly straightforward concept. I can make a personal choice for me. I can't necessarily make that choice without informed consent. I guess if you were to say, like, at the meeting tonight, some parents going to try and read off stuff that some people may find offensive. Don't come if you don't want to hear that. I think that's fair. I think that's called a trigger warning, which these same people mock you for offering. All right, but go back. Let's listen to this guy, because he's about to now, so protective of our children, read this in a public area.
And the school board cuts them off because they insist the material is too obscene to be read out loud. I guess kids could be listening. Great for them to read, but unacceptable for them to hear. I think that's the principle, maybe. It's kind of gross to say, and I don't want to, but this hearing has been called, and we really can't have an honest discussion without knowing what we're actually talking about. We're talking about books with explicit passages about fisting, butt plugs, anilingus, the spit or swallow decision, and rape. I won't read those verbatim, but I will read a passage from a few of the most banned books. From the 4th most banned, All Boys Aren't Blue. You were fully erect at this point. You promised that you're not going to tell anyone? I promised. You then grabbed my hand and made me touch it. It was the first time I'd ever touched a penis that wasn't my own. I knew that what was happening wasn't supposed to happen. Cousins weren't supposed to do these things with cousins. And from the also 4th most banned, Lawn Boy. In the 4th grade at a church youth group meeting, out in the bushes behind the parsonage, I touched Doug Goebel's dick, and he touched mine. In fact, there were even some mouths involved. 10-year-olds performing sodomy, underage incest, strap-on dildo blowjobs. Is this okay for kids?
Well, define what kids are. I don't think that kids like under the age of, let's say, 12 or 13, but I think kids who are seeking this out at age 13, yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's okay. And particularly if they're reading the whole book to get to that passage, it's good for kids to read. But that wasn't enough. The Republicans really, really like these two clips of these books. Here is, and trigger warning, I'm offering it right now. Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, in questioning Alexi Giannoulias, the Illinois Secretary of State, I guess. Here he reads some passages from those same books. They really like these books from an electoral standpoint.
I confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate the argument or discussion that we've been having, but for me, it's a little too conceptual, or I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do.
I like how he, I don't know, some of these big words. Where did he go to school? Was it Yale or was it Harvard?
He's Harvard, but he's also a Rhodes Scholar, just to be clear. Yeah.
Well, some of these big words I don't know.
I never heard those at Oxford.
Yeah. If I don't hear him with a British accent, I can't quite get my mind around it. Here we go.
A little too conceptual, or I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do. Let's take two books that have been much discussed. The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All Boys Aren't Blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote. Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me.
I think it's legitimate for librarians to decide what's going to be in the library. Well, obviously, there should be oversight, because you don't want librarians deciding that the only book that can be in the library is the Bible, or an annotated Bible, or commentary on the Bible. But, you know, if you're really concerned about what is age appropriate, go ask the experts. The problem is these people were the same people who were arguing 15 years ago we should be teaching kids abstinence only, period. They lost that battle because everybody's like, you sound like a right-wing religious fundamentalist fanatic, because they are. And this is just the extension of this, and they don't care what else gets banned in there. And frankly, they probably are, while we're at it, let's get rid of all this new books about the Civil War that have been published over the past 2 decades, basically reminding people that it was about slavery. I mean, that's what's the name of the game here is. And, you know, the reason why they read this stuff off now, I mean, how many more kids are able to hear those words now than would have been able to read them in the past?
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that they're almost like, it's almost like Streisand affecting these books, right? Like, I can only imagine that probably sales or recognition or searches of these books are probably only increasing. And also, as you said, Sam, like, they're the ones that are doing what Max Eden said, which is like, if you were to read this aloud, someone would try and stop you at like a public forum. Like, people reading these books, as you said, reading is like a solitary pursuit. There isn't widespread evidence that middle school teachers are reading this aloud as if it's like a picture book to their students.
No, absurd.
It's 12 or 13-year-olds personally reading something. And they are the ones that are actually conveying it to a larger audience than the kids that might have been checking it out from the library and reading it at home.
Yeah, and Left or Bereft makes the point that you can be 13 or 14 and be forced to carry a pregnancy.
Right. That might be legal.
From a rape, or not for that matter. But the idea that you could read about a sex act at that age, that's crazy.
That's beyond the pale. Yeah.
Beyond the pale. You're old enough to be a parent. You're just not old enough to read about gay sex. Unbelievable. That witness did go on. That clip is a little longer. At one point he goes, I know that was disturbing for everybody, particularly hearing you read it. I'm just a country boy who happened to be a Rhodes Scholar. I just don't think this is 93 anymore. And the idea, like, you know, back when Tipper Gore and Joe Lieberman
right.
trying to get, you know, explicit lyrics from songs, and we were being told that that was the death knell of society. It's all gone away.